悪空間にばらまいてやる。
Today, we're talking about a character who defines strength and fanaticism, Vanilla Ice. If you fought against this character, then you might have just felt your heartbeat stagger from sheer terror at the mention of his name. In the JoJo manga, Ice stands as one of the final stand users separating the Joestar group from Dio, and he's there for a good reason. Facing the trio of Avdol, Iggy, and Polnareff, he presents a challenge unlike anything the three faced up to that point, with a will of sheer iron and a stand capable of erasing space and body parts. Ironically, in spite of his position in the story, or maybe because of it, Vanilla Ice was not playable in the original JoJo's Venture game. In that game, he acted as the sub-boss that most characters would face before fighting Dio in the arcade mode, which makes sense I guess, but it's also a little strange. Perhaps Capcom felt that way as well, because in the update Heritage for the Future, Ice was given a playable spot with a fully fleshed out moveset. To say they created a character who reflects the power of Ice and his stand would be an understatement. The reasons for why he's such a powerhouse in this game aren't particularly complex. He's a fairly simple character when you get down to it, but as per usual, let's just begin with the simple stuff and work our way up the totem pole of BS. Starting off with his buttons, we have 5A and 2A, his jabs. These are quintessential light buttons, fast with strong frame advantage and good reach. Both are great in their own right. 5A's rather high up hitbox combined with the speed at which it starts up makes it an excellent way to preemptively anti-air jumps. 2A on the other hand hits low. This property alone makes it pivotal as a mix-up tool when combined with another move I'll talk about in a bit. It's integral in his combos, both as a starter and as a way to go into his enders. 2A links into 6B and 6C, and without giving away too much right now, those are both extremely important buttons when it comes to opening up the potential of Ice's damage. Keep in mind, however, linking 2A into most other buttons can only be done with a walk cancel. Without walk canceling 2A, it won't have the frame advantage on hit to link into most of his other buttons. 5A can similarly be linked into 2C, but this is only possible with a crouch cancel. Neither of these techniques are very difficult to perform in his combos though. 5B is a standing low, and as I've said before, all standing lows are evil. However, this button is honestly pretty tame compared to a lot of others in Ice's kit. It has a low to the ground hitbox, so it rarely connects with any character who isn't on the ground, and it's minus on hit, so you can't combo off of it without spending meter on tandem, nor do you really get any setup after it connects. The only real use of this button is as a meaty. Notably, it's used in certain Oki setups against Pet Shop, since Ice's more useful low-hitting button 2A whiffs on the bird when he's waking up. Despite this, the awful advantage on hit means the reward isn't great by any means. Outside of fighting Pet Shop, Ice has much better meaty options available to him. 5C, oh god, as a middler player this button hurts my soul. 5C is a very strong anti-air that sports a long-reaching hitbox and pretty fast startup. It's only 7 frames. This also makes it a generally good neutral tool that allows Ice to dissuade his opponent from attempting to jump and keeps them on the ground where they're vulnerable to his other buttons. 5C has 3 hits, and if they all connect it does good damage, but most of the time this only occurs when done very close to the opponent, and at that distance you have better options with 2A and 5A for up close damage and pressure. The big turnoff of this button as a neutral tool is that the high up hitbox placement means a lot of the cast can avoid it by simply crouching. The recovery is pretty fast, but it's important not to be careless if you commit to using this button against a grounded opponent. Outside of that, Ice can usually avoid any punish on this normal thanks to the recovery. 5C can also be tandem cancelled, with Ice being able to use 6B to confirm from long ranges. 2B is another weird normal that's lacking in utility. It's got very fast startup and the animation would make you think it would be a good anti-air, but the hitbox is poor and it's outclassed by 5C among other options for anti-airing in standoff. Outside of that, you really aren't using this. It launches on hit, so the damage you can get off of it is not good at all since you don't get a combo. It's very minus on block, it knocks down after 6 hits in a combo, but Ice already has 2C which he can use to end combos in a knockdown without an arbitrary limit on the amount of hits you need, and much like 5B, the only thing it's good for is certain Oki setups on Pet Shop. Speaking of, 2C is his sweep, and it's very good. 7 frame startup, and it has amazing range, making it a pretty solid poke on its own. More importantly, it knocks down on hit, which means Ice can use this to set up Oki, and since he can link it to a sweep with 5A, that means he has a very easy route to secure knockdowns at the end of combos without even needing to spend meter. This is very important, so keep this in mind. We'll revisit it later. JA's hitbox stays out until he lands, which is a great property to have, and wonderfully for Ice, he can combo off of it even if it connects from very high up thanks to the insane amount of hits done. This is an excellent air button. JB has a much lower hitbox and less active frames, which creates interesting implications for the situations where this button is used in comparison to JA. Even though it's not quite as good as that button, the fact it hits so low means it can be used as a substitute jump-in against characters that JA and sometimes JC don't connect on, which is pretty valuable against characters who are very small when crouching like Devo, Alessi, and Iggy. JC is multi-hitting, and it's his most damaging air normal, which makes it his most damaging jump-in. It is a little difficult getting all 3 hits to connect though, even on average height characters. It's not bad at all though. Ice's notable dash normals are mostly the same as his standing normals. Dashing 2A shares 2A's startup and has a similar hitbox, and it also hits low, which makes it great to check people trying to walk back. This is particularly strong because dash 2A is plus 4 on hit, plus enough to link into 2A, which of course means great damage for Ice. Dash 5A is similar in the regard that it's identical to 5A, but it's slightly slower. 5A is 3 frame startup and dash 5A is 5 frame startup. Dash 5C is a great neutral tool, again maintaining the great hitbox of 5C but adding forward movement, which gives Ice an excellent way to approach from the ground. Dash 2C is interesting because unlike 2C, the dash version does not knock down, so you can't just throw out random YOLO dashing sweeps and get Oki if it hits. However, this does mean that if it hits, you can confirm it's a tandem for a combo. You want to avoid his dashing B normals, as dash 2B and dash 5B are both pretty sluggish, especially dash 5B, which is 13 frame startup. They're both punishable on block and hit. You can cancel both in a tandem to somewhat circumvent that problem, but why would you throw these out to fish for tandem confirms when you have way better options that aren't so slow? Ice has a few command normals, some of which are really good. 6A is not one of them. 6A is another standing low. It's not good, and the only thing it really does is make using 5A while moving forward harder because you risk getting 6A instead, which can and will fuck your tandem combo up. But the fact that this bastard has 2 standing lows is, I think, the greatest indicator of how evil he is. 6B and 6C on the other hand are both fantastic. Both are strong pokes with great range. Not only are they really good tools for neutral and pressure, but of course they are integral in his combo routes since he can link into them with 2A. The cancel window is huge, giving you about 3 decades to confirm into tandem and do some major damage. 6C is unsafe on block, so it isn't completely brainless, but if spaced properly, you can usually keep yourself out of the range where it would be punishable. If you get hit by this, it's gonna fucking hurt. Generally, 6C is better than 6B for damage, since 6C itself does more damage, but 6B is necessary for confirming at ranges where 6C wouldn't connect, since it has more range than 6C does. He also has J7/9B, which hits from quite high up, which can make it a good air-to-air. I should highlight Ice's grab as it's pretty damn good thanks to the damage output. He can't get Oki off of it since it launches the opponent, so they can tech away from him after, but Ice has excellent tech chasing thanks to buttons like JA and 5C, so he can still take advantage of the situation. Anyway, let's move on to Ice's stand. Admittedly, it's been a while since I've talked about Heritage for the Future in any form, so let's go through a quick summary of how stands work in this game. There are 3 ways characters are categorized in Heritage for the future: active stands, weapon stands, and passive stands. The difference lies primarily in how these characters make use of the game's 4th attack button, S. Passive stands are the easiest to explain, as with their S button, they just get a unique attack. It's sort of like the drive button in BlazBlue. With active and weapon stands, their S button allows them to switch between 2 states, stand off and stand on. The details are slightly different between active stands and weapon stands, but the general idea is that in stand off, the character fights by themselves for the most part, with the stand activating primarily for certain normals, specials, and supers, and in stand on, the stand takes over as the primary fighter. Think of it as being like 2 different modes or stances you can switch between. While in stand-on mode, active and weapon stands also gain immunity to chip damage, immunity to getting knocked down, the ability to perform chain combos, and active stand characters gain a double jump. That's the basics. There's some more esoteric details I'm leaving out, but this is the primary important stuff, and believe me, all those active and weapon stand bonuses are just as strong as they sound. Ice is a bit of a humorous exception to what I just laid out, because instead of moving alongside his stand while in stand on, Cream instead swallows Ice and the 2 fight as one being. Bit weird, but whatever he's into. Ice in stand on has a double jump, but he also gains access to one of his strongest tools, his air dash. This air dash can be performed an infinite amount of times, and when combined with the double jump, it allows Ice to get some serious air time, which is very important for his neutral and his ability to turtle. One thing to keep in mind, however, is that stand on Vanilla Ice is also very floaty. His jumps are rather low and he takes a long time to land. The advantage of this is that you have plenty of time to use his air buttons. Normally you'd be limited to 1 per jump, but with Ice you can simply air dash to refresh that limit and bypass the restriction. However, being in the air so long also means that he's easier to anti-air and tech chase. He can somewhat get around these weaknesses thanks to his air dash, but it's definitely still a flaw that begs mention. Now about his stand-on normals, God, whoever was designing these things must have been a fan. If you've ever played a competent Vanilla Ice player, you've no doubt dealt with stand 2B and stand 2C, 2 very fast buttons that chain into each other even on whiff. Together they effectively form a brick wall that many characters struggle to counterpoke because of the very great hitboxes these normals have. You put that together with the sheer speed and priority, and these 2 buttons alone make Ice incredibly hard to approach for much of the cast, and the kicker is that whenever he's doing this chain, he's also building meter. Just a couple of reps of whiffed stand 2B into stand 2C can build an entire bar pretty fast, so whenever Ice finds himself wanting to turtle on the ground, these 2 buttons allow him to do that and net himself some meter for his troubles. Stand 2B into stand 2C forms a combo on hit, and for how stupidly simple and short it is, it does a ton of damage. Stand 2C isn't cancelable though, which is the only real constraint towards using it. These are both elite pokes and Ice finds plenty of use from them. Stand 6C is another great tool in Ice's stand-on arsenal. While it cannot be cancelled into anything, it does high damage on its own and has fantastic range. It's a good poke and also a standout anti-air in Ice's kit that allows him to shut down air approaches hard. It also recovers fast as shit, seriously, look at this. Kind of insane for a button of this nature. Ice also has stand 5B and stand 5C as solid anti-airs, which is good as he's very tall, so being able to check jumps is important. Stand on Ice will find himself in the air a lot thanks to his ability to air dash, and he has strong air buttons to complement this air time. Stand JA, Stand JC, and Stand J6C are all very strong in this regard. Stand J6C is a multi-hitter with a ton of active frames that allows for combos when it connects on an opponent on the ground, and even against airborne opponents you can combo, giving it plenty of merit as an approach option. Stand JC is also a competent jump normal and a good substitute in certain matchups since it comes out faster. Stand J4C acts as one of his most effective airborne pokes. It has amazing range, it starts up criminally, and it recovers just as fast. So yeah, his stand-on air buttons are pretty damn good. You'll mostly be doing air dashes as stand on Ice since his floaty jump makes doing regular jump-ins basically useless. You have to wait so long for Ice to start descending, so you're pretty much just asking to get anti-aired, and you have to do his jump-ins fairly deep to be able to combo off them. Now onto Ice's specials and supers, and honestly, kind of a mixed bag. 236S is his stand activation attack. Compared to other stand activation moves, this one is very slow to start up, but it does hit overhead, which may catch someone off guard if they aren't expecting it. Then we have 236X and stand 236X, commonly referred to as the ball. X in this context refers to any of the three non-stand related attack buttons, A, B, C by the way, so you can activate this with any button except S. Anyway, the ball is interesting. Ice can use it in stand on and stand off, and he can use both versions on the ground or the air, effectively giving him 4 different variations of this special. I'll say right now that both versions of 236X are not great. Ice travels pretty fast, but the startup is very slow, especially for the air version, so it's really hard to get any use out of it. It does good damage on hit, but it's rarely gonna hit because of how slow it is, and on top of that, neither version travels very far. If your opponent has been awake for a week straight, then sure, it'll probably be fine, but anyone else is just gonna react to this, block it, and then punish you. That's even if it connects and doesn't just whiff. It can be used as a decent ranged punish for some moves, and if it connects close to a wall, it'll cause a wall bounce that Ice can actually combo off of and get good damage, but other than that, it's just not that good of a move. Stand 236X and J Stand 236X are where things get funky. Here, Ice can perform a second lunge after the initial attack in any other direction, making it into a bit of a pseudo-Rekka. Reminds me a bit of Beast Cannon in VSAV. Stand 236X is a big improvement over 236X in quite a few ways. While it's still very punishable on block, the ability to perform a follow-up to the initial ball gives Ice ways to be tricky and mess with the opponent's punish, especially if he can end up behind them. The travel distance has a bit more variation with Stand 236X. The A version does not go very far at all. Then you have the C version, which travels basically full screen even on the larger stages. Although it's usually punishable, stand on ball isn't a terrible way to approach if you want to mix up your ways of getting around the screen. The varying speeds of the versions and the ability to simply not do the follow-up means there are lots of potential different speeds and paths Ice can take with this move, which can make it very hard for the opponent to punish it, or just straight up cause them to get hit by a ball they weren't expecting, and that in of itself is very bad for the opponent. Ice can combo the initial hit of ball into the follow-up, which allows for juggles. It's actually possible to hit multiple balls in one combo and end with stand 623AA, which I'll get to soon, and this combo does insane damage. We're talking well over half health for basically the entire cast. This especially becomes scary because of the move's ability to cross up. Ball cross-ups are a bit janky though. Sometimes the move will hit cross-up when he's traveling behind you, and sometimes it won't. But if you block the other way expecting a cross-up, you'll end up getting hit because you blocked incorrectly. Most of the time you'll be fine as long as you block in the direction Ice does the special, but it's worth it to be wary of this as it could end with you losing the round to an Ice ball combo. 214X. I'll talk about this later. Stand 421X is basically a teleport where Ice crashes through the floor and flies up into the sky. This move unfortunately isn't very good. Again, it's just so damn slow and reactable. Most moves it may have been able to punish consistently are spared any of the damage by the fact that it just takes forever and a half to start up, and Ice is heavily punishable on block or whiff. It's pretty cool when it lands, but not very practical. Vice has a down charge move. It has 36 frame startup, does less damage than some of his basic chain combos, and only grants a techable launch. You might not have known this move existed before watching this video, and you can go back to pretending it doesn't. On to supers. First we have 236AA, the Dog Kicker 3000. This is a super that deals good damage, making for a suitably strong combo ender for a single bar. It can easily be comboed into from 6C, so it's easy to work this into the end of Ice's BNBs when you need to secure a round. Oddly, this move can be charged, but the only benefit to doing so is that it becomes unblockable, which is funny but not really practical unless you want to scare the pants off of someone who's new or unfamiliar with the character. The charged version does 0 extra damage, which is strange. Ice can do this move in stand on, with stand 236 AA doing slightly more damage and cancelling out of stand 5C. The only other notable quirk of this move is that on hit, it will switch Ice's mode. If he connects with the stand off version, he'll automatically go into stand on, and if he hits with the stand on version, he'll go into stand off. Still, for what it's worth, it's a very solid super. Then we have Circle Locust, stand 623 AA. This super is disgusting, and also the primary ender for those ball juggles I mentioned earlier, or any juggle combo really. It just fits so seamlessly into those kinds of combos, and it's a great anti-air and reversal option as a result of the speed and safety, and your reward for landing it is a very good Oki situation. It also makes jumping against stand on ice way scarier. Ice's stand 5B becomes an extremely punishing button to get anti-aired by. Stand 5B, stand 5C into Circle Locust is an anti-air combo that does a ton of damage, and it connects super consistently regardless of jump height. Might seem appealing to jump a lot in this matchup since stand on ice is such a tall fella, but you're risking a lot by doing it, because getting hit by this combo just for jumping fucking hurts. Anytime you can combo into Circle Locust, you do it and you win. It's great. What's not great is Ice's final unique super, Madness Sorrow, 214 AA. This one kinda sucks. Can't say it isn't interesting though. After a lengthy startup, Ice disappears and begins smashing through the wall, floors, and ceiling. During this period, Ice is completely invincible, the attacks are unblockable, and each hit does pretty high damage. Sounds pretty great. The issue is the existence of rolling. When you perform a roll, you are invincible to strikes and projectiles, which includes Madness Sorrow. Just roll whenever Ice pops up and you render this super completely non-threatening. Now, if the person you're playing doesn't know this, then it becomes the most annoying knowledge check on Earth for them, but if they do know, then you're effectively wasting your meter. They'll simply avoid it completely and then kill you during the lengthy recovery. It also costs 2 bars of super, which is not very common in this game, but only creates more incentive to avoid it. Ice can build more meter than a lot of other fighting game characters would know what to do with, so it's not a huge loss, but 2 bars to do this super that's basically never going to hit anyone who's halfway familiar with the game is throwing away 2 bars that could have been used on the infinitely more useful Circle Locust or Tandem. There is one undeniable utility of 214 AA, which is timeouts. Ice is completely intangible during this super for about 5 seconds of in-game time, so if you happen to have that much time on the clock, plus 2 meters and the life lead, this super is basically a guaranteed win. Gonna be real though, there's literally no good reason to find yourself in that situation as Ice. This is not a character who struggles to close out rounds. The last Ice super to talk about is the aforementioned Tandem super. Tandems are a universal super that every active stand character can perform with the input of 214S. After performing the super, there's a super flash, during which you have 80 frames to input anything. After the flash, the character's stand will perform every input that you just did. For example, if you do ABC and then say 214C during the super flash, then the stand will perform those attacks. During the tandem, while the stand is performing attacks, your character can also attack alongside them. Typically, most characters will want to repeat the sequence of ABC as many times as desired. For most, if not all active stands, tandems are your main meter dump. If you've got freaky enough fingers, you can TOD or get very close with a tandem combo from the sheer quantity of inputs alone. Otherwise, you want to keep your amount of repetitions to a more manageable number. After the tandem ends, you can continue your combo, so less inputs during the tandem makes it easier to keep track of when the stand's attacks will end, and makes it easier to time your own extension. It's a scary thing to eat a random 6B or 6C from Ice, because that usually means you're parting ways with at least 40% of your health. Tandems also have invul on startup, so it can be used as a legit strong defensive option. Due to the previously mentioned proficiency of stand 5B and stand 5C, tandem anti-airs are actually really strong for Ice, and lets him check jumps from very far away. The strength and versatility of tandems really cannot be overstated. This is an amazing super, and Ice has some of the best use for it for his damage output, as well as the extra defensive utility. Now, there's a lot to go into with Ice. To be honest, just detailing the nature of his specials and supers doesn't really do justice to why this character is so cracked. Ice is extremely versatile, able to be played offensively or defensively, and reward for either playstyle is plentiful. You can play Ice as aggro or lame as you please, but it should be stressed that part of why he's so good is his ability to switch between these two on the fly, which allows him a very well-rounded playstyle that excels in numerous areas. I suppose we can start with damage. Ice has got it, and he's got it in spades. He's a damage machine, and this is due in part to having the tandem super. Ice's tandem confirm 2A into either 6B or 6C is very consistent, and he has ways to extend his combos beyond this simple confirm. You can cancel 6C into 214C and link 2A after 214C hits, and all of this combos. It's definitely not easy, as the timing to have 6C into 214C actually combo is pretty tight, and having to go from forward to a quarter circle back special is nothing short of fucking awkward, but the damage itself is real good, and after that you can dash back in and land another 2A to go into your tandem confirm, or loop the 6C 214C combo. And keep in mind, Ice's B&B starts from his 2A. This is the damage he gets from a 3-frame low-hitting starter. Just keep the game's Infinite Prevention System, IPS for short, in mind when doing 6C 214C loops, as it'll break the combo if it goes on for too long before the tandem. In stand on, he can link the stand 2B, stand 2C chain, as well as stand 6C into 6B or 6C in order to confirm into tandem, which is important for when he starts combos off an air dash. You can do this with the input of 6S plus B, which will switch Ice to stand off mode, and it makes Ice's combo structure even more flexible, giving him access to many different starters with which he can chunk you. I should also bring up that 6C by itself just does a lot of damage, which helps considering it's part of his combo structure. Kinda funny, it even now damages a lot of his stand-on normals. So yeah, Ice shits out damage without even really trying. Another major strength to elaborate on is his mobility. I mentioned the air dash he has access to in stand on, but even in stand off mode, his maneuverability is impressive. Ice's roll in particular is one of the fastest in the game. The speed of the startup alone makes it very strong and difficult to check, especially since rolls cross up if done at a close range. It's not uncommon to see Ice players roll to close the gap and then perform a 2A out of it. This is a stupidly good option for how simple it is. Should the opponent attempt to check Ice's roll with a button in response, there's a good chance the invul will cause their button to whiff and they'll get hit by Ice's 2A, and then the health bar just disappears. Rolls are only strike and projectile invul. You can grab characters out of them, but that can be easier said than done, although obviously if you get predictable with roll 2A as Ice, you will get grabbed a lot for it. He also has pretty fast forward and back dashes. There's a small period at the beginning of the dash where he can't perform any attacks, so you have to delay your button slightly to use Ice's dash normals efficiently. Going back to Ice's air dash, getting in with instant air dashes is one of Ice's scariest approaches, allowing him to brute force his way into a mix-up. Since Ice's stand-on jump is so floaty, you typically want to do your IADs starting in stand-off. You do this by hitting 8S, which will jump and send you into stand-on immediately, and then hitting 6-6 or 4-4 for the air dash itself. However, there does exist an even more efficient input method for IADs that makes them an even scarier option. It involves a technique that gives Ice an easier air dash input that makes it possible for him to do his air dash extremely close to the ground. This is known as the IAD install. Basically, whenever Vanilla Ice turns his stand on or off, he goes through this rather lengthy animation. You can skip this animation by simply pressing S while moving forward or backward. Doing this while going into stand off not only skips the animation, but it also stores the forward or backward input. After the input is stored, you can simply input 6 or 4 once instead of having to do it twice for his dash, which allows you to stay super close to the ground during his air dash. It's kind of hard to explain with just words, so here's what an Ice IAD without the install looks like generally. And here's what it looks like with the install. Notice how he's almost skimming the floor during his IAD with the install? So in addition to worrying about grounded dashes, dash 2As, roll 2As, now you have the added threat of Ice suddenly air dashing at you at a height where it's hardly even possible to tell and opening you up with an air normal, and at a height this low, it's more than possible for him to get a combo off of his IADs. Ice can use the install in the same way for his grounded dashes as well. The IAD is also strong in its safety. Because Vanilla Ice is not grounded while doing it, he can't be punished with a combo, heavily skewing the risk reward of performing an IAD in his favor. At worst, he'll eat a super for his troubles, which isn't that bad in a lot of matchups. Ice also has access to a technique known as the Dookie Drop that allows him to further diversify his movement options. The Dookie Drop is done by going into stand off mode in midair while in stand on. For most characters, doing that will do the second jump like normal while simultaneously turning off their stand, but if Ice does this, he'll fall to the ground, during which he's still actionable. Offensively, the Dookie Drop is a great mix-up option since you can perform his air buttons, which hit his overheads, very low to the ground to open people up. The Dookie Drop is very strong because it makes Ice's air movement super unpredictable, which causes a whole heap of annoyance for the opponent. The sudden momentum change allows Ice to dodge anti-airs, including supers, which Ice can even punish if he lands before the opponent recovers. Dookie Drops can also make Ice much harder to tech chase, and remember, he can still press buttons while dropping, which means he can go into combos off of it too. Ice happens to be very good at being lame. I mentioned how strong Stand 2B and Stand 2C are as pokes, and I wasn't kidding. There are some characters in this game who have a hard time dealing with these two buttons alone. Ice's infinite air dash also gives him the ability to retreat from danger very quickly. One of Ice's most subtle strengths is the very simple and safe nature of his game plan, especially in relation to other characters in the game. Ice's buttons are bonkers and give him dominant neutral, and that alone lets him mangle a lot of the cast who simply struggle to approach against his amazing and safe poking. His damage gives him incredible reward on the many ways he can approach, which is amplified by the strength of his IADs and his meter building capabilities. He rarely has to take risks in a lot of matchups, especially with the low and mid tiers, but even in matchups against characters who can get past his pokes, he can still keep up. That's the basic gist. His neutral, offense, and defense are all top of the class. But there is one more thing I want to talk about before we end things here. Not gonna waste any time here. Let's get into Ice's Oki. First of all, Okizeme, Oki for short. It basically means pressuring the opponent when they're waking up after getting knocked down. You might be pleased or horrified to know that Ice is really fucking good at that. While he has the ability to kill with one combo, thanks to the sheer ease with which he gains knockdowns and his extensive mix-ups on knockdowns, it's also just as possible for him to two-touch the cast. First of all, let's get back to 214X. I brought 214C up specifically as a great combo tool, but now we can get into the special as a whole. This move is just called Cream with an exclamation point. Ice throws Cream out, or if he's in stand on, just does the attack by himself. Real quick, don't use the stand-on version. Stand 214X is worthless. Avoid it like you would a wet seat on public transport. The entire utility of this stand-off version of the special comes from Ice being able to move while Cream is attacking, but you can't do that with the stand-on version since they're one entity. It sucks. 214X, on the other hand, is notable for one property. It hits as an overhead. You have to block this high. Since Ice can reach the opponent to attack them just before 214X makes contact with the opponent, it means he can attack at the same time with 2A, which hits low. Already, you can see where this is going. With adjustments to timing in mind, it's possible to set up extremely ambiguous mix-ups between the overhead and the low. We're talking just a few frames of time to guess between the two. More importantly, if you can get 2A and 214X to connect at the same time, bam, you've got unblockable Oki. This right here, this is why you avoid vanilla Ice players when you're walking down the street. Unblockable Oki is completely busted and it often allows Ice to win games off of a single interaction. Ice gets a hit, usually off a 2A, goes into tandem, does 40 to 50%, gets a knockdown, and then unblockables you and wins the game. It's offensively easy to set up as Ice's B&B can easily be ended in 2C to score a knockdown and set the unblockable up. It's also possible to set up unblockable Oki after stand 623AA, since the knockdown from that super leaves Ice very close to the opponent and super plus. Stand 623AA is a stand on super, so Ice has to deactivate a stand quickly before performing the unblockable after the super ends, which can be an issue against characters with fast wake up timing, but in most matchups it's a great option. Even if your Oki isn't timed to be a true unblockable, the timing is so ambiguous on the mix-up that people will often get opened up anyway. You might be preparing to ask, why can't I just wake up super when I see Ice doing the 214X Oki? Well, my friend, that's a very good question. Oki in this game is tremendously strong, and Ice is one of the poster boys of that. Answering why it's so strong is easy: the block only frame. After waking up from a knockdown in this game, there is a single frame where you are completely inactionable. You have no invulnerability against strikes, you're fully vulnerable to them, but you can't actually do anything. So wake up reversals simply aren't a thing in this game. You have to hold Oki that is truly done meaty, which means if he lands the unblockable as a true meaty, then you can't do anything. Can't guard cancel, can't super, you hold it, and you die. Since unblockable Oki on Ice is so absurd, and Ice himself is already like 5 levels of absurd, many modern tournament rule sets for the game used in both the Americas and Europe have opted to ban Ice's unblockable Oki completely. You simply aren't allowed to perform the 214X-2A setup. But even though that's a fairly big blow, Ice has other Okizeme options to compensate. They aren't as definitively strong as the unblockable, but they're still very good. First of all, 214X can be used for mix-ups without committing to the unblockable. You can use the block stun of 214X in order to set up a mix-up with JA, which hits overhead, or an empty jump 2A that hits low, as well as a grab. Also very strong in Ice's Oki game is the IAD install. Off most knockdowns, Ice can set up a 50-50 between an IAD overhead or his low hitting stand 2A, and both convert into a full combo. There are also setups using the IAD install that allow for left-right mix. Depending on the timing, it's possible for Ice to cross the opponent up with the air dash and end up behind them. Terrifying. If that wasn't enough, it's also possible to use the Dookie drop in Oki situations for more potential mix. Dookie drop Oki ain't too hard to set up. You can do it easily off knockdowns from stand 623AA. Since you're already in stand on for that super, you have the necessary facilities to do the Dookie drop quickly and make the opponent guess between left or right, or overhead and low. With such a rich breadth of options to keep you guessing and so many different ways to set it up, Ice has one of, if not the best situation after getting a knockdown in the game, and that's without even factoring in how much damage he does. And the crazy part is, this is all remarkably consistent from matchup to matchup too. Whereas other characters like Iggy have some Oki setups that might not work on characters who have a fast wake up time, Ice's Oki generally works regardless of the character. There are some exceptions, but even when those crop up, you have setups you can go to that don't have the issue. You take this crazy Oki that allows Ice to secure wins with just 2 touches and combine it with everything else I've talked about, and you can see why Ice is considered a top tier. He really just plays this game so phenomenally well, and he's exceptionally stable in numerous matchups. This is not to say he's completely flawless. Hell, I mentioned numerous specials and supers that are basically worthless, and he does have some genuine downsides. Ice is tied for the smallest stand gauge in the game. Anytime an active or weapon stand character is in stand on mode, taking damage or blocking stand attacks will lower your stand gauge, and if it goes down all the way, you suffer a stand crash where you're vulnerable to a full combo punish. Ice's small stand gauge means it takes less punishment for him to be stand crashed. Ice's stand-on jumps being so floaty also means it's really easy for him to get trapped in the air after getting hit. Tech chasing him is very easy, and his normal jumps are much easier to anti-air than most, though he does have the Dookie drop to somewhat amend this. Ice's guard cancels, both in stand-off and stand-on, are also not that good. The stand-off version has a major problem with whiffing on crouching, which can open Ice up to a big punish depending on the character. The stand-on version can be punished on hit. Now, are these flaws equal in the face of his damage, his movement, his unblockables and Oki, and everything else? Not in the slightest. If the kind of character you're looking for is the one who makes use of absolutely everything in their kit, you won't find that with Ice, as you're going to be ignoring quite a few of his specials and supers. But Ice is a fucking menace in this game, and has everything you need to feel powerful, and he's not particularly hard to learn either. Even with tournament rule sets designed to ban or kneecap the parts of this character that make him so bonkers, he's still a fundamentally strong pick if you just want to win. And thus, we have Vanilla Ice. I have a friend who plays Ice, so I've spent the past 2 years bearing witness to how criminal this guy is, but it's still pretty insane to break all this stuff down and see how it works in a more detailed manner. The unblockables, the ridiculous buttons, the incredible meter build, the IAD mix-ups, it's all pretty crazy how simple this character can be and still be so strong. It feels nostalgic covering this guy so long after I did my initial video on the top tiers of this game, and rest assured I have plans to cover the other S tiers in Heritage, as well as some other characters that I feel I didn't quite do justice in my older videos. I really love this game, and I'm super happy to be able to go into it again, so I hope you enjoyed. This video wouldn't have been possible on my own, so I want to give a massive shout out to AhmedSkrill, Duckstopher, and Lamar Davis for help on the script, as well as allowing me to use the replays in the video. Major thanks go to these three fellas. Anyway, I think I've reached the limit on how long I can talk about this character before lashing out in anger, so I'm gonna go. Thank you for watching, have a great night, and take care. Hey everyone, time for the part of the video where I thank all my channel members on YouTube. Sorry that this took longer than I expected it to, just problems on my part, but I'm glad that it's done. I'm really glad to finally be revisiting Heritage for the future, and I hope that I'll be able to kind of do this game more justice than I did last year. But again, I have to thank AhmedSkrill, Lamar Davis, and Duckstopher for their help on this video, and I also want to thank Rain Arrow and Black Savage Man, who both gave me permission to use footage from the Heritage for the Future Awakens tournament series, and also Abdul, who gave me permission to use a video from his channel of Heritage for the Future. They're both featured in this video. So huge thanks, and go check out the Heritage for the Future Discord and check out their tournaments. There's so many tournaments that are run for that game on that Discord, so it's great. I mean, just to get the chance to, you know, play the game with other people. And playing Heritage for the Future is always something you should be able to indulge in, so I say go for it. But anyway, time to thank all my channel members, so I'd like to give the biggest of thanks to Old Man Han, Cammy the Killer, Jazba, Mortis, Arg Seals, Wormy, Terry Hints, Perfect Orange, Pet Shop from Fortnite, Happy the Hap Hap, Gundog92, Gerald Say, Loose Chujin, Raymond ZX200, Nick Toyo, Basewire, Power Level Asian, Isaac the Collector, Kira the Stowaway, Sonic Frontiers is a Good Game, and Chandarin. It's really crazy to me seeing how long some of you have been channel members, but thank you so much. The support means a lot, it truly does. Again, I just have to apologize again that uploads have been so slow on this channel, but I'm trying to work through it. And I've got some stuff planned for next month that I can hopefully get out that I think should be pretty good. But again, thank you all so much for the support. It really means a lot to me. Thank you to the members of the Heritage to the Future community that helped me out on this video. Thank you all. I don't really have much else to say. I know I usually ramble during these parts, but I guess I'm not in much of a rambling mood. But thank you. Have a great night. Take care.